like to try and keep the testimony confined to the knowledge that the victim has in this scenario.
The witnesses.
Good afternoon. And due to paucity of times, I would appreciate it if you keep your answers as brief and concise as possible. Thank you. In your testimony, you stated, although you're not a man of the law, you have considerable expertise in the area of ammunition. Is that correct?
Yes.
The fletched shells you have mentioned, do you know how legally or illegally permissible they are as a general scope around the world?
I know that there are weapons of extremely high military grade, but no, I'm not aware of the character of whether or not they're permissible or impermissible.
Let me rephrase. Are they easily accessible?
No, they're not.
They're not.
As I said, they're very advanced grade military weapons.
Thank you. Is it true that fletched shells are essentially the shells in which it contains and not in fact a gun?
No, it isn't.
Is
A fletched comes within a shell that is in turn shot by a gun.
All right. Is it correct to state that a gun then can shoot fletched shells of various sizes?
Absolutely.
In your testimony, the WHO report was also averred to. In that, it has been stated that the fletched shells follow a trajectory which is conical in nature and goes 300 meters up and 90 meters across. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
That's correct.
Again, are you examining in chief or cross-examining?
I'm cross-examining.
But your fellow counsel said we have to be on the same side when it is victims and the prosecutors.
Obliged, Your Honor. However, as was clarified initially by the organizing committee, the nature of this examination is of a cross. However, I'm simply trying to probe the finer details, as I had earlier referred to, simply in the context of the expertise of the witness.
So why are you examining crossly, both of you? You should be examining together.
We are examining on the same page, Your Honor. However, the victim's relation, the legal representative's relation to the witnesses is different from ours in this regard.
The purpose of cross is to counter their position.
Obliged.
Are you countering the victim's position?
I will be, Your Honor, if through subsequent answers.
I think the president said that
I think,
there would be a hybrid
let me
kind of
repeat
situation.
let me repeat again that this is, of course, a very hybrid situation and unique, as I said before, also in international prosecution. So we will have to allow some leeway in this respect. And I think that the way you categorize what you're doing is appropriate for the moment. Thank you.
Obliged. Given that in a scenario where a vessel is approximately 40 meters away from a ship and they are attempting to fire at the ship, would they employ a device which would, as you had also earlier confirmed, that would fly approximately 300 meters in the air and then 90 meters across? Would it actually reach the ship or would it pass over the ship in that regard, given that it has a conical trajectory?
Well, that would depend upon the angle at which you shoot the said shell. Consider if you make a steeper angle, it would merely go 300 meters in the air, and then the cone would be extremely vertical in its trajectory, shooting very directly at a 90-degree to the ground.
However, is it also theoretically possible then that the flechettes could be fired from a handgun?
Absolutely.
No more further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I just want to ask you, how is this last point is relevant to your entire question?
Your Honor, this will...
In the closing...
It will go in the closing, but I don't mind answering Your Honor's question. In this regard, what we were trying to establish is that the use of these weapons was not primarily or solely from the vessels which the accused operatives were commanding. In fact, they could have fired the same shots while they were on board. Obliged, Your Honor.
I call on defense counsel.
Hold on. To the conclusion.
Mr. Apologies, Doctor.
Excuse me, just
Yes.
we'll take a short recess.
Okay.
It's hard though, but because it's a hybrid, because three parties, it's always very difficult.
Hopefully they will come up with the
Yeah, I hope so. And I think the other issue
That's
is,
why
yeah, but also I think unlike a moot, where you can direct directly ask them about points of law. Here there are also facts which are incorrect. I mean, it's just not very easy to manage, I think. Because a lot of this is just factual testimony. So we're not arguing about law yet.
Maybe also they built up some
At the closing, yeah.
Either cross or tricky or
how do we mark it? In the sense, of course, we have to mark the witness exam.
So for all of
Speaker
this,
one, speaker two.
yeah, correct. Yeah. Yeah, for both of speakers.
Rest of it.
Yeah.
okay, please continue.
Dr. Alexander, would you please tell the court about your education expertise?
Well, certainly. I worked as a project engineer, so I have a understanding of ammunition and field logistics, and on account of this, I've studied a master's in defense. I have a master's in defense science, if you will.
For how many years have you been practicing in this particular expertise?
38 years now.
Okay. How long have you been working for the Perosian government?
As long as I've had my experience all my life.
38 years.
Yes, absolutely.
In this particular investigation, you did do an investigation in the present case.
Absolutely.
How big was your investigation team?
I worked in tandem with the government of Galador in their investigation. So my role was supplementary, if you will.
With Galador?
Yes, absolutely. With their National Investigation Agency.
On what date did your investigation begin?
I'm 61 years old. I don't really remember specific dates.
Do you remember how long did the investigation at least go on for?
I believe it went on for 7 months.
All right. Is that correct that you mentioned in your previous testimonials by the prosecution and the victim for the court's record that expendable bullets were used in the present case?
Absolutely.
Are expendable bullets being used anywhere in the world right now?
I'm not aware of that.
Aren't you an ammunition expert?
Absolutely, but I study specific scenarios. I'm not really a generic expert. You know.
Would you agree to the fact that you testified before this court that plastic pins were used in the present case?
Yes.
Through what were plastic pins employed in the present case?
Could you be more specific?
Through where was the plastic pin employed in the present case? Which weapon?
It was fired from a shell that was shot through a handheld gun.
Flechette shell.
Yes.
Are flechettes banned under international law?
Madam Defense Counsel, is probably something you would have greater expertise in. That.
You just mentioned to the court that expendable bullets is banned. How do you not know that if this particular thing is banned or not?
Well, if you were listening closely, you would know that my second sentence was that I'm not a man of the law. I wouldn't be competent to answer that question. I have a master's in defense science.
That means the first statement that you mentioned to the court that expendable bullets are banned under international law, it's not being used, is also doubtful. Is that correct?
They're heavily discouraged and shunned by the international community.
Indeed. Could you please tell the court if these kind of weapons, advanced weapons, are easily procurable?
No, they aren't.
Okay. So, in the present case, this is not something a normal man could procure?
No, absolutely not.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If Your Excellencies have no further questions, may the witness be excused.
Will you, please be excused.
Thank you.
The counsel seeks permission to do examination in chief of victim witness 2.
Witness 2. Yes, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Can you please introduce yourself to the court?
My name is Wal Luton.
How are you related to this case?
Sir, I was present on the ship on this awful day.
Can you please tell the exact date?
23rd January, sir, 2016.
So you are going from Belltown to Galador
Yes, sir.
in search of asylum.
We were running for our lives, sir.
So who planned this whole journey for you?
Sir, I'm a common man, sir. So we were being heavily attacked. Our houses were burned. Our houses were looted. So there are a lot of Belltown members there. So they said, come on, there is a human outreach organization's ship being arranged. So let's just run for your life. So I saw 2-3 people, the prominent faces whom I see there in Belltown. They were running around and I just followed them, sir. That's what happened.
So can you tell the exact, can you be more specific what happened then?
So we were on the ship. So the ship was small, sir. It couldn't accommodate all of us. We were around 70, 80, I'm not too right. So we were all crammed onto the ship, sir. And like some of them were telling some vessels are approaching us. So they were like all terrified and they were running around. I had a kid with me, so I was just keeping him close to me.
You told...
So these people told me that...
Sorry to interrupt you. But in your speech, you told that you were given instruction to lay down.
Yes,
Objection,
because...
Your Honours,
Is that a
the
leading
prosecution
question?
has again and again asked this court to ask the counsels to not rely on the communications to lead witnesses. Thank you, Your Honours.
Because we were a lot of people there, like, and it was a target for anybody. We were exposed. So some of them were lying down. We were all terrified. We couldn't shout, so we were all silent and we were
Why were you so terrified?
Because, sir, we were running for our lives. Like I told you, right, the conditions which were happening in our homes, they were burnt down. We were chased and killed. So I thought I'll just go to my relatives in Galador and settle there. So
can you please tell the court what happened exactly when your ship entered the territorial waters of Galador?
I heard people running around saying, oh my God, like 2 vessels are approaching us. So I just got my kid and I just was sort of hiding somewhere. Then, sir, I saw people running around on the ship. And, sir, like that was a terrifying incident, sir. I don't know what they used. Like, it was raining nails. Like, we were all injured. And those people climbed on our ships and started firing at us. And they took away my child from me. They kept me on point blank, questioned us, tortured us. And yeah, that's what, sir. And they tortured everybody as much as possible. Somebody was running for his life. He was running away and he was shot on his head. And like, terrified. Like I saw his heart bursting out. And the other man was like, oh, you did a great job.
Seeks apologies to interrupt you.
Sorry, but...
because due to the paucity of time, I'll try my level best to that justice is dispensed to you.
Thank you, sir.
Can you please, did you see the vessels by yourself?
I did not see the vessels by myself.
So did you hear anything about the vessel, about any flag or anything about the vessel?
Objection, Your Honours. The question is so leading. It's suggestive since it says that there's a flag firstly on board. So it's a suggestive question, Your Honours.
The council seeks to reframe. Did you anyone tell you that the vessels are coming from anywhere? Did anyone recognize the vessels?
People were running around and saying they think that they are Galadorian vessels. And the soldiers, like people who climbed up and attacked us were in soldier uniforms.
No further questions. Thank you.
To begin with, I would like to express my deepest sympathies with you.
Yeah.
Would you like a moment to have some water and
No,
compose?
thank you.
To begin with, in your earlier testimony...
Excuse me. I appeal to the audience to be restrained, please. Thank you.
In your earlier testimony, you said these people climbed aboard and started shooting. Is that correct?
Yes.
So there were subsequent firings on board?
Yes, sir.
You were sailing from Belltown to Galador on the 23rd of January?
Yes, sir.
Was the trip scheduled as such?
No, sir.
When was it scheduled?
It was scheduled for 25th. But we couldn't wait till then. It was an emergency situation.
Right. On 25th, however, was Galador expecting you on 25th?
Sir, I don't know. I'm a common man, sir. I was just told by the people there. We couldn't communicate with
Which people?
The people who were leading me to the ship.
Which were those people?
Those people who were the prominent faces I could see in Belltown.
Are you referring to the leaders of Beldome?
Maybe they are.
Thank you. Further still, as has already been averred, do you know if the ship was carrying some sort of flag or visual representation of its origin?
Sir, I told you I didn't see the ship.
No, the ship you were in.
We were told that it's sent by the UN, HOG, something like that.
Who told you this?
The people who led us to the ship.
The people. Thank you.
And yeah, there was a blue flag, I guess, United Nations, HOG. Yeah.
Please be sure. Was there or was there not?
Yeah, there was a flag. I think, yes, there was a flag.
Was that the only flag?
There were two flags.
Which was the other flag?
HOG and United Nations.
Again, succinctly, once more. How many flags were there total and which ones were there?
Two flags, one written HOG and the other written United Nations.
Thank you. At this point, Your Honor, I would like to point out in the compromise that it has been clearly elucidated that the flag on board the ship was that or simply Perusia. Paragraph 17. I put it to you, you're falsely deposing before this court.
Sir, I don't actually, that happened there. We were not in a position to...
So you are not sure of what flags were there?
There was a United Nations flag, and I think we were told that this ship belongs to UN.
Told by the Beldome
Yes.
commanders. Thank you.
Witness, were you actually on the ship?
I was on the ship, sir, yes.
Sure?
Yeah.
Who was commanding the ship?
We were told that the ship was commanded by a captain from HOG.
You were told. Did you give written communication to the prosecutor?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this, Your Lordship, page 25, page 26? The written communication that you provided to the prosecutor?
Which says...
Is this the one?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
In the same statement, you have made that the ship was being commanded by Beldome officials.
Beldome officials were controlling us, the refugees on the ship. They were guiding us.
You have said in your statement that the ship was being commanded by Beldome officials. There is no mention of HOG.
Objection, Your Honor. In the present case, why we raised an objection is because when the defense counsel was relying on this particular statement, the witness testimonials, the prosecutor themselves told us that whatever has been testified in court shall be admitted. Right now, why are they relying on this particular statement then? They're speaking in contrary to their own statement.
No, but counsel, there's a difference, is it not? I mean, this counsel sought to get the witness to read out testimony and introduce that into the facts.
Your Honor, that was exactly the same thing that we were doing, and we were interrupted by their objections in the due course of our proceedings.
The communications were not given to the defense as such, Your Honor, and further, the defense made no attempt to try and get the witness to identify said communication.
Please,
The objection is raised in the same regard. The prosecutor is relying on the communication that has been presented to the court. Also, we were interrupted on the same instances. He not only has relied on the same and shown the communication, but also asked the witness that in your testimony you have stated, which is the same sort of objection that was raised during our cross-examination.
thank you. Just take a small pause, please.
Obliged, Your Honor.
He's maintaining that they're introducing improprieties.
I think there's a difference. I think there's a difference because this counsel, he elicited the information and testimony before drawing conclusions, whereas they were just jumping the gun and getting from the conclusion. So there is a difference.
Council, thank you for the interesting contribution to the debate. We find that again, because of the hybrid nature of this court, we would allow this to proceed, but take it into account when we're coming to our conclusions. Thank you.
Obliged, Your Honor. Witness, please, as I was earlier saying, you in your written communication have stated that this ship was being commanded by some senior Beldome members and have made no reference to the HOG. Why is that?
Because whomever I saw telling us, guiding us were the Beldome members, sir. And it's from
How
them.
do you know that the ship was being commanded by HOG?
Because they told us
The Beldome members
yes.
told you that the ship was being commanded
Yes.
by HOG. Thank you. One last question in this regard. At the time of the incident, the vessels approached, and then people climbed aboard and started firing.
Yes, sir.
You said they were in military uniform.
Yes, sir.
Or did they wear any sort of representation as to which military?
I think it's something like SFC.
Again, there is no mention of this in your statement. Why is that?
Because I told whatever I asked. I wasn't asked whether their uniform particulars. I just was asked that it's a military uniform, sir. Now, when I recollect, I think when
Describe what a military uniform is.
Sir, I'm a common man, sir. I don't know much about it. What I saw is
As a common man, what is a military uniform?
What I usually see in movies, sir, the camouflaging colored.
Camouflaging
Yeah.
colored. All right. And yet you have not mentioned anything about the SFC in your statement.
So,
I'll have to say that if we're soliciting new information for the first time, there is a certain evidentiary responsibility. On the other hand, the witness cannot expect to have said everything at the time. He knew a question could have occurred to him now. You have an objection?
Much
It is in the same regard that the deposition before the court is happening right now. The victim, in the due course of circumstances that happened to him, would not have been expected to testify about every intricate detail that was a part of the entire incident, and that is why we humbly request the court and our learned members from the prosecution to also give importance to the deposition that is happening currently.
Thank you. Please bear that in mind.
Also, just once, is that not unfair to? Is it their fault that you did not elicit important and relevant information in your direct examination? Why should they be punished? Because you spent a lot of time in drama.
Indeed, Your Excellency, there's that. The Council would like to state that firstly, as already established by the bench and both the councils, that we are working in tandem here. Also, if there are any evidences which are actually addressing the necessary concerns of our case, like the insignia on the uniforms, who were the mercenaries who climbed aboard the ship, also who was in command of the ship, I think that it is an evidence that is very important for the court to be addressed of, and also the prosecution should take that into account when making the case.
But that's precisely what they're trying to do, right? Is it their fault that you did not elicit this piece of information in your direct examination when you had the chance?
Indeed, Your Excellency, however, we are not trying to interrupt the line of questioning. The only thing that we are trying to contend here is that if reliance is placed on the testimonies, if reliance is placed on the communication that was made to the office of the prosecutor, the same reliance should also be given to the evidences which have emerged right now in the course of the deposition.
But just a few minutes ago, you said we shouldn't be relying on the written evidence.
Not entirely. If he's asking leading questions from the communication, that is something that we are contending should not be done, and due reliance should be placed to the deposition as well. Otherwise, there is no reason why the deposition should be taken into account. Only the testimony which has been submitted should be presented before the court.
I take note of your statement.
Your Honor, I have two questions.
Please continue.
As I earlier said, you can't exactly recall which flags were on and or not because of the traumatic incident that was taking place at that time. Is that correct?
we were, yeah.
So it would be correct to say that, of course, you cannot also recall the exact insignia color of the military uniforms as such.
It was a military uniform, I can tell you that.
But you can't recall, it's for 100% certain, cannot recall that the insignia. Because a moment ago you also said you think it was SFC.
Yes, I think it
No
was
further
SFC.
question. But you can't recall 100%.
I think it is SFC.
You're not answering my question.
What's the question?
I said, given your traumatic state of events where you can't identify large flags which were flying before an attack occurred, do you...
Thank you. We'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I call call on counsel for defense for cross-examination.
Sir, I hope you're doing okay right now. Are you okay right now?
Yeah, I'm sort of.
All right, sir. Could you please tell me that on that unfaithful day, how many people were there on board Goliath?
Around 70, 80 people were there.
70 or 80?
I'm not sure, ma'am. I did not actually count. We were like running for our lives. I just got
Okay.
on board.
Isn't it true that you did not take authorization from the Caledonian government before entering their territory?
Ma'am, we didn't. I told you we were in such an emergency. We didn't have time for
Indeed.
communication, and I heard.
But you did not.
Yeah,
Okay.
we did not.
Can you please tell the court, if you recollect through your mind, that what time did you depart from Belltown?
Early morning, ma'am.
Early morning. And what time did you see the two vessels coming?
Ma'am, it was in the morning, around maybe between 8 and 9, like something.
Indeed.
But counsel, just sorry to interrupt.
Yes, Your Honor.
Why are you asking this witness a question about authorization from the Caledonian government?
Your Honor,
When this person clearly testified that he's a low-level person on the ship, he's not a leader. So why would he be the person getting permission?
I understand your concern, Your Honors, but in the present case, this particular ship did not take authorization from Caledonian.
Right? There's no means for a low-level member who is just running for his life, jumps on board a ship to know whether it's authorized or not.
Your Honors, in the present case, we're not contesting the facts that he is supposed to be aware about that, but were his Beldom members or whoever
There's no testimony which suggests his knowledge of what the Beldom members
Indeed,
do or
Your
not.
Honors. I shall.
It's completely irrelevant.
All right, Your Honors. I shall move on to my further questions. Would you please tell the court that when the two vessels were arriving before you, did you shoot them first?
No, sir, I did not shoot them.
Not you, sir. The armed personals on the ship.
No, sir, nobody shot.
Nobody shot
Nobody
them?
shot.
Indeed. So they shot you first?
They shot us first.
Okay. How many people were killed when, if you recollect, how many people were killed?
Objection, Your Honors. How can he testify possibly when he has said that he doesn't know all the people on board? How can he testify how many people died?
I saw people dying in front of my eyes. Like, I'm pretty sure, like around 20, more than 20
Why
people.
was this question not posed to the investigating officer?
Because clearly the prosecutor was objecting the defense counsel at every point. Your Honors, in the present case, why are we questioning him is so that we can relate his testimonial to the elementary facts in the present case, because that is something we can definitely rely on. And the elementary facts state that 24 people died. And Mr. Val Luton is giving us intricate information as to what occurred in Goliath. And he is stating that the personals who entered had SFC military uniform, which means that he's stating that the alleged accused is in the present case. Yes, Your Honors.
I don't frankly think that that question is appropriate under the circumstances.
All right, Your Honors.
Thank you.
I shall move on to my further questions. Could you please describe to the court that was there any simulated drowning done to you people?